everybody, JC here from Toy News International, and today's Throwback Thursday review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your number one news source for everything Marvel. Now, most of you, when you think about Toy Biz, the first thing that comes into mind is probably Marvel Legends, the 6-inch Marvel Legends. Toy Biz definitely revolutionized the action figure market when they first debuted the Marvel Legends. Actually, the Spider-Man Classics was really the first of that kind of figure. The 6-inch highly articulated, detailed figures with the accessories and comics and everything. But that was not actually the first time that Toy Biz had really kind of revolutionized the action figure market. Back in 1990, Toy Biz debuted a new line of Marvel figures. I believe it was their first line of Marvel figures, in fact. A 5-inch scale line of figures and vehicles and play sets. And this was really kind of what got me into action figure collecting as more of the adult type collector than anything. As a kid, I grew up collecting or playing with Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Transformers, but I never really got into superhero toys of any kind until I was older. I was actually in high school when this line first hit. And amazingly enough, it wasn't really Marvel figures that got me into it. Toy Biz is known for, Marvel figures, but it was actually, at this time, a little bit before the first Michael Keaton Batman movie had come out, and Toy Biz did a line of figures for that, and I was really into the Batman movie. I'd always been more of a Marvel person as far as comics go. I'd kind of gotten into comics through Transformers and G.I. Joe, and kind of had branched off with that. But I really liked the Batman movie, and so when Toy Biz came out with this 5-inch line of Batman figures, even though I didn't collect it rigorously, I basically picked up Batman and the Joker, maybe a couple others, just kind of on a whim. But that kind of piqued my interest with the line. And then when I saw one day this Marvel line that had come out, and up until that point, really my only experience with Marvel figures had been the Mattel Secret Wars figures. And these figures were okay. And really, I kind of started kind of collecting these after I'd gotten into the Batman figure. I started looking into what Marvel figures were out there, and this line had pretty much had come to its conclusion. But you could still find some of the figures on the discount shelves at Toys R Us and stuff. And so I kind of started picking some of these up, these Mattel Secret Wars figures. But then I came across, one day I came across in the toy aisle this new line of Marvel figures that Toy Biz was putting out, and it was similar in the design of those Batman figures that I'd picked up, and so I was really intrigued by them. Again, more as I was in high school at this time, so I had kind of quit collecting toys until that Batman figure came along. I as a kid played with the Transformers and the G.I. Joe and the Star Wars, but this is again what kind of brought me back into things. So I picked up this whole first wave of figures at the store. Now, what's really cool, one of the things that's really cool about this line is just the characters that you saw released in this first wave. You've got characters like Silver Surfer. I mean, who had heard of Silver Surfer at that time? Daredevil, Dr. Octopus. Obviously more well-known characters like Spider-Man and Hulk were also in the lineup. Captain America, who has always been my favorite character, so that's probably what really appealed to me the most, was the Captain America figure. And then we got Doctor Doom as the villain in the lineup. And the figures, they limited articulation, certainly nothing on par with what we see with Marvel Legends or Marvel Universe figures today, about 5 points of articulation. But, especially compared to those Mattel Secret Wars figures, they did have more articulation than those, a little bit more detail. Now, they did have, especially starting out, the figures did all have action features. Oh yeah, and we also, in the first wave, also got Punisher. Now, here's a guy who's goes around and kills people, and we're getting the Punisher in the very first line. Now, of course, Punisher was definitely kind of big even more so than he is today. Back then, he was the anti-hero, so he was a very popular character in the comics at that time. But it was just kind of strange to see an action figure in the toy aisle, during that time of a character like the Punisher. But anyway, all the figures had little action features. Spider-Man had suction cups on his hands so he could stick to walls. The Hulk has a little lever on his back that lifts up his arms. He comes with a little. He came with a little plastic boulder. I don't have the boulder anymore, but basically he would lift the boulder up. He also came with a bar that he could hold in his hands. Looks like he's bending it. Silver Surfer comes with his surfboard that's got wheels on it so it can roll around. Daredevil came with a big kind of giant grappling gun that's supposed to be like his billy club. Looked nothing like a billy club, but nevertheless. Punisher had a little thing where you turn the knob on the back and it makes a noise like he's shooting his gun. Doc Ock had his little rubbery arms that had suction cups and little grappling hooks on the end. Doom had a thing on a lever on his back that you could turn that would like turn his wrist. He came with like a little drill gun that you could turn and some other accessories. And in this line it was really cool. It was just something I hadn't seen before, and so I picked it up. And they not only did figures, but they also did vehicles, and the vehicles were kind of corny. There was the Captain America Turbo Coupe and the Spider-Man Dragster, which those I never picked up. There was actually a Punisher van that they released as well, which I actually never got, but that was actually pretty cool. It looked like a real van, and in those days the Punisher drove around in a van, so it was definitely, that was one of the cooler ones. And then there was this playset, which I still have today, and that's called the Training Center. And it was a really cool little playset for the time. Basically it's all plastic. It's got a working elevator. So basically you can. It's got a little thing here on the bottom where you can turn and it opens the elevator door. And then there's a little knob up here that you can work that will lift the elevator up. You can put a figure in it and it'll basically raise the elevator up to the second floor. There's a little trap door over here. I lost the trap door, so it's just an opening now. And then there was this little plastic piece over here that was had a fire sticker. It was like a flame pit, and I have it somewhere, but I haven't been able to find it in time for this review. It's got these little breakaway gates, so if your figures are falling, you can pretend that they fall through the gate. It's got two cannons which fire. Has a little clicking noise for firing. It's got a grapple up here that again you can kind of lower down, put your figures on it and raise it up or pull it down with this little turn knob up at the top. Another feature it's got breakaway columns, so Hulk can smash the columns. And then there was a breakaway wall. I've only been able to find one piece to the wall so far, but basically it's little pieces like this, and you put it together kind of like a puzzle, and it fits in this a little groove over here, and then the Hulk can break the wall. So lots of cool little action features, and you can stand your figures all around it and everything. So just very cool. And this line expanded greatly over the years. We got tons of figures. They did practically every Marvel character known at the time, from the X-Men to Spider-Man. Each of those characters, which had their own cartoons at that time, basically got their own kind of branch off lines. So there was a Spider-Man line and there was an X-Men line. Again, the articulation on these, and some are better than others. And they kind of dropped the special features. I mean, some of them still had special features, but they were kind of got less dorky as the line went on. But still, they were fun to play with. So this to me, even though, like I said, I was there at the beginning of Marvel Legends, and that continues to be a great line. But this to me was really the line of Marvel figures that got me into collecting today. And by today's standards, they're definitely kind of corny, but I think this line has a lot of sentimental value for me, and just so many cool figures that they released over the years. So the figures over time actually grew in size a little bit. The first figure started out around 5 inches, maybe just a little under 5 inches tall. But then later on, as the lines kind of split off in their own, like Spider-Man and X-Men and Iron Man even had his own line because he had his own cartoon for a little while. And so the figures kind of started to get a little bit taller. So like the later figures stand more about 5.5 inches tall. And the scale is not super great on these. I mean, like Hulk here, the first Hulk figure that was released is the same size as Doom. So there's no real difference in scale, especially in the early figures. Now we did later on see other figures that kind of started to incorporate more in the way of scale, like they released a Kingpin figure in the Spider-Man line, and that one was definitely bigger. You got, so later on, we started to see more detail and more variation in scale and stuff with these figures. A little more articulation with some of them. But again, and also the gimmicks kind of changed over the years. We got figures with like these little voice boxes, so you could push so it would be like your figure was talking. It's amazing that these still work after all these years. And some had light up features. Cyclops had the light up eyes. So I turned the lights off so you can see here's Cyclops. You can see his eyes light up. You just pull a lever on his back. And again, it's amazing the features still work. So on some of them they don't. The batteries have gone bad in them. But a lot of them they still work. So just nice quality all around. Like here's the first Iron Man figure that they did, and he's kind of cheesy looking, but he had removable armor pieces. You could take off on his legs and wrists, and he even had a removable helmet. So he had the Tony Stark head underneath, which was cool. We got later versions that ended up looking better, more articulation. This one had vac metallized pieces that you could put on it. But figure actually looks, in my opinion, this one always looked better without the metal pieces that you just take off. And this one was from the Iron Man cartoon line. This is actually one of my more favorite Iron Man armors that we saw in the comics and everything as well. It doesn't have a removable helmet, but it had more articulation. It had joints at the shoulder or at the elbow, at the knees. So, again, not anywhere near on the level we see with figures today. Well, the collector figures today. This is more of the kind of articulation we see with the kid-oriented figures that Hasbro's been doing recently. But definitely in the day when these were released, this was pretty good articulation on a figure. And then here's a Venom figure that was released. Now this one was supposed to shoot slime, and because Venom was kind of slimy, so you could pop out the back. And I actually still have the slime. I've never opened the slime. God knows what shape it's in, but this thing is still full of slime. But you basically are supposed to pop out the back, fill it up with slime, and then it comes out of his stomach. So just cool features that they included with these figures, making it fun for kids and collectors alike. So here's one more fun one that's kind of a classic. It's called the Hulk Rage Cage. Now this Hulk figure was a little bit bigger than the regular Hulk figure that they released. Less articulation though. But basically, and actually this figure has electronic sounds now. They don't work anymore. The batteries have gone bad in the figure. But basically, there's this lever on the back of the figure, and you pull it, and it lifts his arms up, and it basically knocks the cage pieces down, and basically he's supposed to be breaking out of the cage. So, you know, again, just kind of a fun little toy. You know, very little articulation, even less so on than the regular figures. But he would go roar when you lift the arms up. So it was just kind of cool. Okay, so that's my review, though this is more just kind of a walk down memory lane, but definitely, you know, like I said, you know, to me, when I think of Toy Biz, I think very much of these 5-inch figures every bit as much as I do as the Marvel Legends 6-inch line. In fact, we probably never would have gotten Marvel Legends if we hadn't, you know, if it wasn't for this line and the popularity of it. I mean, this thing grew incredible. I mean, like I said, they ended up making figures of probably every Marvel character known to man in this line at the time. And part of it was just the success of the cartoons that Marvel had back then. You had the 90s X-Men cartoon, you had the Spider-Man cartoon, like I said, Iron Man and the Fantastic Four had semi-successful cartoons. So it was just, that was a lot of things that fueled this line. But it made it fun. And like I said, basically, you know, these eventually grew into larger scale figures and eventually into the 6-inch Marvel Legends that we all love today. And I definitely probably wouldn't be into toys, or maybe, you know, may have never been a Toy News International if it wasn't for this line. So definitely, you know, this is a great line. They had a lot of appeal for both kids and collectors. So that's my look, my Throwback Thursday for this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, I'll catch you later.